Let's jump right in. Welcome to This Explainer. Pull up a chair, get comfortable, and let's just take a deep collective breath. Today we're unpacking some of the heaviest psychological baggage we all lug around. We're going to look at why we struggle, why we dream, and why, ironically enough, our deepest hopes can actually be the source of our deepest pain. I mean, let's be real. Wouldn't it be amazing if some superhero just swooped in, rescued us from our existential dread, and, I don't know, folded our laundry while they were at it? Since that's not happening, we really need to look at the dangerous comfort of idealization.
Have you ever caught yourself thinking, man, I'll finally be happy when I get that big promotion, or everything will just click when I meet the right person? If you have, I want to validate that right out of the gate. It is incredibly normal. We do this all the time. We lean on the shimmering promise of the future to escape the sticky discomfort of right now. But today, we're peeling back the layers to see what's actually happening beneath that very human urge.
Which brings us to our first major coping mechanism, the illusion of romance.
Deep down, if we're really honest with ourselves, we have a really hard time tolerating our own stuff. We know our own cowardice, our confusion, our silly compromises. The philosopher Alain de Botton hit the nail on the head when he said, "We fall in love hoping we won't find in another person the exact same flaws we know exist in ourselves." It's heavy, right? So what do? We take this protective fantasy and we project it onto a partner. We place the person we love inside this bubble, pretending they're magically free from ordinary, messy human imperfection. It's not just physical attraction at play here, it's literally hope trying to triumph over self-knowledge.
And by doing this, we set a massive trap for ourselves. On one hand, we build up this idealized partner in our heads, flawless, a savior, this glowing symbol of redemption from our own self-disappointment. But standing right next to that phantom is our actual partner, an ordinary, imperfect, beautifully flawed human being. And look, it is absolutely intoxicating to view someone as a flawless savior. You think, wow, maybe with them my life is finally complete. But this idealization completely blinds us to who they really are as a natural human reality.
This mechanism doesn't stop at romance, though. Let's look at part 2, the fantasy of the future self. Think about a time you felt mocked, overlooked at work, or just utterly trapped in a boring routine. What does the mind do when it's in pain? It creates a future identity to compensate. Take the common daydream of becoming a powerful, highly respected executive or a top-tier civil servant like an IAS officer. In that fantasy, you prove everyone wrong. The people who ignored you suddenly see your worth. It gives you this rush of temporary psychological relief. It really feels like ambition. But if we scratch the surface, it's actually a coping mechanism. Because eventually, the reality of the daily grind collides with the daydream, and that crash leads to profound disillusionment.
For a brief moment, imagination acts as a powerful anesthetic against reality. These daydreams are essentially psychological painkillers. The fantasy swoops in to temporarily repair feelings of humiliation, transforming your current feelings of weakness into this imagined superiority. It's a mental escape hatch that lets your mind completely bypass the rawness and the pain of the present moment.
This brings us to part 3, where we explore the internal dialogue behind all of this, the search for validation.
Let's step into the therapy room for a second. Listen to the voice of a hypothetical client, which, let's face it, is really the voice inside all of our heads. If I can just get this promotion, then people will respect me. Then I'll be lovable. Then life will finally feel complete. It's such an earnest, desperate belief. We want so badly to believe that external achievements or that perfectly curated romance will permanently fill our inner emptiness.
But this is exactly where a compassionate therapist has to gently push back and probe the underlying motivation. We have to ask the tough question: are you actually seeking success, or are you seeking a psychological refuge from the rawness of right now? Are you trying to build a fulfilling career, or are you just building a fortress to protect yourself from feeling inadequate?
And the response to that question is usually heartbreakingly vulnerable. The client says, but without these goals, my ordinary life feels completely unbearable, dull, and insufficient. And we have to validate that fear. It's so real. Because the more intensely your mind idealizes some future self, the more unbearable your ordinary reality starts to feel. Without those grandiose fantasies acting as a shield, our present self feels terrifyingly vulnerable, insecure, and painfully ordinary. Here is the major breakthrough insight. It's the inner split itself that's hurting us. On one side, you have your actual self, vulnerable, confused, ordinary. On the other side is the imagined self,
Admired, powerful, totally put together. The immense distance between those two versions of you, that gap is the exact source of your deepest psychological suffering.
Let's shift gears and look at this through an ancient lens in Part 4, the reality of impermanence. We can actually use ancient Buddhist teachings as an advanced psychological framework here. In reality, everything changes constantly. That's the concept of anicca. No single experience provides permanent, lasting fulfillment. That's dukkha. And there's no fixed, solid identity. That's anatta. But when we're caught up in idealization, our minds completely deny this reality. We trick ourselves. We perceive things as permanent, lasting, and solid. We take transient, ever-changing parts of life and subtly twist them into symbols of permanent salvation.
So idealization isn't just you being a little over-emotional or exaggerating. It is a temporary, outright denial of the fundamental nature of reality itself. When we expect a job title or a romantic partner to give us permanent fulfillment, we are literally picking a fight with the impermanent nature of the universe. And spoiler alert, that is a fight we will lose every single time.
Now don't worry, we aren't saying you shouldn't have goals. Let's cover Part 5, healthy goals versus avoidance.
Take a breath here. I want to reassure you that having desires is not inherently wrong. There is absolutely nothing wrong with wanting success, intimacy, or recognition. That's just healthy ambition. The danger, the harmful psychological avoidance, kicks in when we start believing these things will permanently cure our existential pain. Striving for love and ambition, totally fine. But relying on them as substitutes for doing the hard work of self-acceptance, that's what sets us up for a really painful collapse when reality finally breaks through the illusion.
So how do we fix it? Let's move into our final section, finding peace in imperfection.
First, we have to remind ourselves why breaking this cycle is absolutely crucial. The hidden dangers of this mindset are severe. When we idealize others, we stop seeing them clearly as real people. When we idealize some future version of ourselves, we completely reject our present reality. And once your mind relies on fantasy just to emotionally survive, ordinary existence literally becomes unbearable. We have to address this before that inevitable crushing disillusionment hits.
So here is your therapy homework. Here are the compassionate steps to develop true psychological maturity. Step 1. Just acknowledge the urge to escape uncomfortable emotions. Notice when you're doing it. Step 2, practice sitting with that shame, fear, or boredom without immediately converting it into a fantasy about future greatness. Step 3, face your actual, vulnerable self directly. Look in the mirror. And finally, step 4, stop demanding that the future save you. We have to learn how to simply exist without constantly trying to morph into someone else. I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. Does true freedom actually begin when you no longer need a fantasy to tolerate your own existence? Just let that sink in for a second. True peace isn't found in finally becoming your imagined perfect self. It is found in the radical, messy self-acceptance of exactly who you are, right now, in all your perfectly imperfect humanity. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Take care of yourself out there, and we'll see you next time.